Human rights situation of the leaders and defenders of the Shuar people in Ecuador. I want to warmly welcome all of our petitioners here today. This hearing was requested by Comisión Ecuménica de Derechos Humanos, and we have with us Domingo Raúl Anquash Masuk of the Shuar Cupiame Center, Carlos Alfonso Tendetza Antun of the Anua community, Luis Locobo Corral Fierro of Asamblea de los Pueblos del Sur, Milton Stalin Farragas Villonoso of the Ecumenical Human Rights Commission. And what we don't have with us is the state of Ecuador. And once again, the Commission wishes to express its regret and disappointment that the state has not joined us today to listen to the concerns of the indigenous people of Ecuador and to respond as appropriate, and also to give the Commission the benefit of hearing the state's point of view. With me today, I have on my right former President of the Commission, Commissioner Tracy Robinson. On the left, I have another former President, Commissioner Jesus Orozco. We also have with us Commissioner Paolo Vanucci, who is responsible for our unit on economic, social, and cultural rights, which I think is especially important for indigenous peoples. I myself am Rosemary Antoine, current president and also rapporteur for the rights of persons of indigenous people.
En la actualidad habría una vulneración integral de los derechos y de concretarse todo este megalómano proyecto económico dirigido por el Estado ecuatoriano en alianza con empresas transnacionales, bien podría hablarse de un etnocidio que implicará la desaparición de la cultura shuar, de sus formas tradicionales de vida, de sus formas de relacionamiento con la naturaleza, de sus conocimientos, en fin, de su cosmovisión y filosofía. Lo que venimos a denunciar el día de hoy es la escalada de violencia en territorio shuar, donde han caído asesinados 3 hermanos shuar en resistencia en los últimos 5 años, donde el Estado está relacionado de manera directa en 2 de estos casos y de manera indirecta en el último de ellos. Estos 3 asesinatos están relacionados con la imposición ilegal e ilegítima de un proyecto minero hidroeléctrico petrolero en el territorio shuar, que podría desembocar en una espiral de violencia que el pueblo shuar y los pueblos del sur del país rechazamos rotundamente.
As rapporteur for Ecuador and also rapporteur for indigenous peoples, I would start the comments. Normally I don't as chair, but I think I will on this occasion. Just to say that, well, first let me say that we will correct your name for the record. I took a note of it, Anquash, but I'm not too sure I have it spelled correctly. So we will ensure that the rapporteurship has your name spelled correctly. There is an error on our own record. And to say that once again, the rapporteurship and the commission, we view with the deepest concern these issues which are being brought to us, and this kinds of information which largely concern the violation of established rights of indigenous peoples to their land, and the ways in which state, and not only the state of Ecuador, but we are seeing similar patterns elsewhere in the region, to inform you that it is so grave and of so much concern to us at the Commission that we have actually launched a report on the use and abuse of natural resources and how it impacts indigenous peoples and also persons of African descent in some countries. And it is to discuss precisely this kind of issue. So we want to assure you that this is of really great, tremendous importance to us, the information you presented, and we will be collecting as much information as we can from you in writing and from this hearing, which will be part of our report. So I felt it was important to say that one of the things that concerns us, which is clearly coming out in your presentation, is the complete disregard of the right to prior consultation, which is obvious in your case from what you have said. And since we don't have the presence of the state to refute anything, we take what you say at face value. Also, I would personally, and also on behalf of the rapporteurship and the Commission, want to say that we vehemently condemn in the strongest possible terms, the use of terrorist laws to prosecute and intimidate indigenous leaders who attempt to protect their rights over land and other rights. And this is also something that the Commission has been actively prosecuting, pursuing, and so far successfully, even in a recent case in relation that we went to before the Inter-American Court. So we are very clear on that principle that indigenous leaders and in fact human rights defenders, I'm sure my colleague Commissioner Roscoe would have something to say about that, should not be criminalized when they attempt to protect their rights. That I think is important to say. And also, of course, concerns about, you mentioned ethnocide. I don't think that is an alarming way to put it, because we have observed, one, the kinds of violence that indigenous leaders are subjected to as they try to protect their rights, and sometimes from the police and the army, who are there to protect all people but seem to place more emphasis on protecting projects as opposed to the state. So this is also something that we have observed. And also indirectly, when their lands are taken away and their lands are contaminated, they're denied access to water, and health issues arise. So we believe also that has an impact on rights to life. So these are all things that we have noted, and in context that you mentioned of ethnocide. I also wanted to say to you that what the Commission has been doing and the rapporteur has been working very hard towards also is to not only speak to the host countries, in your case Ecuador, about the human rights violations that may be occurring when there are companies extracting minerals, or whether it be high-tech energy, what have you, in the country, but also to try to enlarge the sphere of influence from the Commission's point of view, and to work with and attempt to influence the countries of those where those companies come from. So we've done quite a lot of work with Canada. We've had discussions, rapporteur, and there's a very healthy movement, even in Canada, working on this. We had our first hearing on Canadian companies the last session, I think it was. So this is also something that we think is very important, even these big, powerful countries. And although we know it's not government companies, we believe that that's an important avenue for trying to secure human rights. And finally, to say that I recognize that some of these issues, although they may concern sort of established rights of consultation and criminalization and so forth, also involve broader macro issues of development. And we don't state how to or what projects to get into, but there are larger macro issues which have to do with the development process itself, and to ensure that they respect rights, both civil rights and economic, social, and cultural rights. And that is also something that the Commission is moving into to consider, especially with our new unit on economic, social, and rights. And I'm thinking particularly of rights to the environment, again, rights to water, which is of prime concern to us. These are very large issues. These are issues which certainly the rapporteur, we appreciate that when it comes to indigenous rights, that is already recognized that indigenous rights must encompass that spiritual dimension, which is right to the environment and concern for the environment, which benefit us all. So these are all issues that we are really concerned. I don't actually have any specific questions to ask. As I said, we are very concerned to have all of this information. We thank you. I thank you in particular because of the report that we're doing. And I'm now going to ask my colleagues who may have specific questions.
Thanks very much, President. I don't have a question, a quick comment, and it's to express more than disappointment that we don't have the state here. I think when I listen to the allegations about assassinations and as well as disappearances, there's no more important time, not only for the state to give its perspective, but to respond to citizens of Ecuador about important allegations of human rights violations, to assure citizens about its protection and about its commitment to addressing these issues. Fundamentally, as the President mentioned, these are issues relating to the human rights of indigenous peoples But there are also issues of great importance to Ecuador, the economic, social, and cultural rights of Ecuadorians, and also the question of human rights and business, which Ecuador has established in international arenas its interest in contributing to. And so I want to take this opportunity to invite the state to join petitioners in these absolutely critical human rights discussions, and equally to invite the state to request hearings which will allow the Commission to hear its own perspective on some of these important issues, but to echo how grave the situation which you have described and the importance of the state responding. If the state isn't here today, I would invite the state to share information and to respond to the concerns raised after this hearing in writing.
Efectivamente se vuelve a darse procesos de criminalización de la protesta, y según un informe de la Universidad Andina Simón Bolívar existen cerca de 200 líderes populares que tienen procesos judiciales abiertos entre sabotaje, terrorismo, obstrucción ilegal de vía pública y otros tipos penales. Sin embargo, efectivamente, las organizaciones sociales de derechos humanos han hecho una serie de pedidos, efectivamente, para que se pare estos procesos de utilización de la justicia para criminalizar la protesta, utilizando instrumentos internacionales y decisiones de la propia Naciones Unidas para los defensores de derechos humanos. Sin embargo, esto no ha sido canalizado en debida forma por parte de la Administración de Justicia. En el Ecuador existe una suerte de falta de independencia de algunos importantes sectores del Estado, entre ellos la función judicial, y vemos que no hay la posibilidad de que hayan juicios con transparencia y también independientes.
Es una escalada de violencia, ¿sí?, que se está dando en el territorio Shuar, y efectivamente estamos preocupados de la integridad de este pueblo en su conjunto, ¿sí?, tanto a corto plazo como a mediano y largo plazo. En ese sentido, efectivamente, pedimos la posibilidad de que se incluya en el informe final de este periodo de sesiones del caso del pueblo Shuar, y que se exhorte al gobierno nacional a cumplir sus obligaciones de tutelaje y respeto de los derechos colectivos. Es crucial ubicar al más alto nivel la problemática que está viviendo el pueblo Shuar. Y efectivamente se han establecido comisiones internas para la investigación de algunas muertes, pero estas muertes están prácticamente quedando en impunidad. Creo yo que en el marco de la escalada de violencia, la posibilidad de que la comisión pueda establecer una veeduría, pueda de alguna manera recibir los expedientes de los casos de asesinatos, pueda de alguna manera hacer una visita in loco, ¿sí?, para efectivamente hacer visible esta problemática de la población Shuar, podría evitar precisamente que la espiral de violencia se llegue a concretar en territorio Shuar. Pedimos, de la manera más comedida, que puedan acoger estas peticiones, estimados comisionados.
Hemos dicho de que la explotación petrolera y minera, ¿a quién va a beneficiar? ¿Es a los ecuatorianos o es solo a las 10 empresas transnacionales o 500 personas que dominan al país? Entonces, eso estamos de desacuerdo nosotros, y políticamente pedimos al Estado de que, de acuerdo a la Constitución, lo que dice, que el Estado debe garantizar a los pueblos indígenas, no garantiza. En vez de garantizar, ahorita mejor mata. Entonces, esa política, controversia ideológica de los indígenas y del capitalismo no concuerda, y eso es lo que estamos atacando. Gracias.
Thank you very much. So this brings to the end of this session. I want to again say to the state of Ecuador, who is not present, that we could still welcome your views in writing or responding to any of the very serious concerns raised here today, which had to do with the rights of indigenous peoples, in particular the Shuar people. Also the criminalization of legitimate protest activities on behalf of those peoples, the activities by foreign companies which impact human rights of the indigenous peoples and the people of Ecuador, and also the enjoyment of economic, social, cultural rights of the entire peoples of Ecuador. These are serious concerns expressed in this hearing, and we hope that in a future hearing or the future time we can get a response from the state. But in the meantime, we will continue to interrogate all of these issues, and more specifically so in relation to the report. Thank you again, and goodbye.
Gracias.